episode of Doctor Who in Review, presented by Diversely Geek, with Nisha M, your geek mom, here on the show, and Man Bites Media with, of course, myself, Louis Lacow, and we have two amazing, just fantastic guests with Molly B. Marcus and Clever. Clever, tell us a little bit about yourself, since this is the first time you've been on this show.
Hey everyone, hope everyone's having a good night. I'm Lee Clever Roberts. Most people just call me Clever. Just a Mr. Clever cosplayer over here in Salem, Massachusetts. Really happy to be on the show.
Awesome. And how did that come about? Like how did you get into becoming Mr. Clever? That's such an interesting.
I feel, so I'm going to give you the TLDR version because I feel like I would be here all night doing that one. So when I first started cosplaying, I did not know what the word cosplay meant. And I know that everyone's probably like rolling their eyes going, how did you not know that? I really thought that cosplay was just for anime characters. I'm like, that's not, I don't know much about anime. I love anime, but I don't know a lot about it. So I can't cosplay because I don't know an anime character. I had two really good friends. We just called them the Malfoys because they cosplayed Harry Potter characters, and I love Harry Potter. Love Harry Potter. I am actually sitting here doing this podcast in my Gryffindor common room.
Well, yes.
We did. It is the coolest thing ever. I wish I could do like a little video of it, like just kind of pan out. Is we redid our living room to be the Gryffindor common room because I love Harry Potter so much.
I always knew I liked you.
I'm telling you, right?
So hello.
Harry Potter is life.
Yes.
I really thought that if I, when I did start cosplaying, it would be a Harry Potter character. But anyway, my best friends, the Malfoys, they are these just statuesque, picture perfect cosplayers, and they always have so much fun everywhere they go, and they're so perfect and they're so beautiful, and they just are surrounded by these wonderful friends and just such a great support group. And I'm like, oh my god, I want to do that. I want to have fun. I want to do what you do. And I tried all these different costumes, and I tried a Harry Potter character, and I tried this character, and I tried this character, and I'm like, I hate this. I hate this. And I thought, being from Salem, where everything is about costumes and Halloween, and I thought, oh, this would be really easy for me. And it really, really sucked. Like, I hated it so much, and I just tossed every costume that I tried, and I gave up completely and just shrunk. Like, just stay away from me. I don't want to do this. This is the most horrible thing I've ever tried. And then we restarted watching Doctor Who, which I watched as a child, and, we watched, Quested and David. I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is an okay show. This is nice. And then we started watching Matt, who I absolutely fell in love with. I'm like, oh my god, this is my doctor. And then I saw Nightmare in Silver and lost my friggin' mind. I am not kidding. I think I screamed in my poor partner's ear like 15 times every 3 seconds watching that episode. I'm like, oh my god, it's written by Neil Gaiman. Oh my god, Warwick Davis is in it. I'm like, oh my god, like how? How is this not the greatest episode anyone's ever seen? Like, this is the freaking greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And just, that was it. Like, Mr. Clever came on screen, and I'm like, this is my cosplay. Like, this is who I'm supposed to be. And made the costume, and I have been only cosplaying as him ever since. It was fate. This was fate, and I tried other costumes after him, and I'm like, no, nope. Nope.
That's amazing, though, that you attach yourself to one particular character, a different version of the Doctor, which I personally love that episode. I love anything Neil Gaiman writes. It's just, yes.
Well, Neil Gaiman, hubba.
I was going to say, did we say Diamond or Gaiman? I'm like, good with both of them. Hey.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, Neil's a god. Neil's a god as far as I'm concerned.
What I really, and I think we'll bring up later in the show is for all of us, but with Clever, one of the main, I've been dying to have you on this show, is really
Oh,
the beautiful journey that you've been on, and how strong and impactful I believe that journey is going to be for listeners out in the world. And you and I have talked about this. Also, the fact that you've brought Clever to so many other fandoms because you do the crossovers. And they're fantastic. So I do want to definitely go into that a little bit more. But do you guys want to go ahead and start on the points, or do you want to just? We could just
Let's do this, Nisha.
let's do this thing. So we're going to be starting on a very short, maybe 1, 2, 3-part series with a lovely group of folks, Doctor Who fans coming on. And what we're going to really be looking at is the positive influence of the Doctor. I mean, we talk about it a lot, right? We always have it on the show. It's always part of what we did. But, for us, I'd love to be able to really focus and really highlight and spotlight the ways that the Doctor Who franchise, the Doctor Who language and message has really impacted and created, and literally, I would say, blossomed and bloomed this huge fandom, and all of
Yes.
it. Right? Didn't it do that though? It was like
Yes.
this beautiful blossoming of a field of flowers that we've never had the opportunity to interact with, and here we have it. And sometimes yes, that's my mind, sorry guys. Okay, so so for tonight, what I was thinking is, let's focus on the positive influence of the Doctor. And I was going to ask a very interesting question. When we started out with Doctor Who, back 50 something years ago, we did not have a character that was so vividly different, right? Arrogant,
Right.
but bombastic, but at the same time empathetic and warm and giving. And then it also created this brand new language for us. We started to emulate this language that the Doctor created, right? How many of us know how to say what is a TARDIS and what is a sonic screwdriver? This is all new language. So how do you? So what I was wondering is, what lasting impressions has the Doctor left on you? I mean, over the 50 some odd years, and how has that shaped you as a Whovian or as just a fan in general or person? So we can step into that, and I really then wanted to also talk about the language and see how we've learned to speak differently because of it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Molly, you want to go in first on this one?
Sure. So the Doctor for me, and I've probably mentioned this on past shows, was massively influential to me because it allowed for me that it was okay to be different, that it was okay to be nerdy, that it was okay to love books, and it was okay to love adventures. Ever since I was little, I've always had a very active imagination. I've always loved sci-fi. I've always loved space. I've always loved science. So for me, the different things that the Doctor would talk about, getting into language, whether it was TARDIS or the screwdriver or this or that, I always tried to make these things out of my toys. Of course, it was quite successful, but I tried nonetheless. I think that for me personally, it opened up a whole part of me that had been undiscovered. And after watching, now I started when I was about 9, 10 years old with the Fourth Doctor. So Tom Baker was my Doctor. It was a zany, crazy, arrogant, but lovable Doctor. And I still have my scarf, which I don't get to wear a lot because it's Florida. but yeah, so that's my part there. I'm very succinct. Sorry.
and Clever?
I think the one thing that I've always taken away from the Doctor is the amount of respect that the Doctor would always have for other creatures and other planets and other cultures. And I think just growing up for myself, I was always a huge animal lover and always big on the environment, and just, you see this role model on TV that we just didn't have in a lot of, we didn't have a lot of in that capacity. So you see this, this alien creature traveling all over the universe and is landed in this, beautiful blue box all over the place, and is basically coming out and is just showing every single creature, no matter what they look like, no matter what status they have, whether they're, an emperor or this, ant, they're showing them the same respect. And that, for me, that was just so mind-boggling, and it just stuck with me. I think we can still learn from that.
Yeah, that's very moving. Yeah, that's very true. Very good points on both of those. How about you, Nisha? What were your first impressions of the Doctor, and what was your takeaway?
And it's interesting because I think we all pretty much started around the same time in terms of the Doctors that we watched. Because I did start at about 13. I think for me it was the fact that, again, what I was saying is this extremely extravagantly brilliant genius on one hand, who definitely had to be, talked down sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the way that exactly you hit it on the nail, it was that level, that respect, and that assuredness that we were treated to. This was one of the first shows I watched where I had no predispositions of what expectations there were of race or color or gender or even label, to be honest with you. I feel like the writing allowed that to be stripped away, and I could just watch the show and enjoy the show and the story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think, honestly, you're correct and very much clever in the fact that there was such a strong respect, and that we were treated to a role model. And I was thinking a role model for equality, for respect, and for acceptance.
Yes.
So that's...
You guys. Yeah, you guys got a little deeper than me.
And you, Louis?
I think, honestly, the biggest intro for me, the biggest aspect of the Doctor that I took immediately away was the whole teamwork effort. The whole fact that this one person takes on these companions and doesn't just kind of like use them as tools or anything else like that, like they've done in previous shows, but they kind of go with all the different aspects of how each person could do their amazingness and have those different points of views. And I've always been fascinated by that, because that's how my group of friends were when we were in high school, and that was kind of always the role that we played. So it was very refreshing seeing that in a TV show, and then with the amazing backdrop that is science fiction, and the fact that you're able to travel through time and space and tackling these historical events, which I'm a huge history buff, so that kind of takes over everything. And then on top of that, those moral tales of society, the impact that this one character in time and space completely left his own race to try to help humanity along the path that we all know we're struggling down, and we all struggle from day to days, and we think, what would the Doctor do? What would this one person do? And it's that person that we lean on, but it's the same way that we lean on religious aspects and all that stuff. We use it as a tool to self-evaluate ourselves. And that's where I think it's fascinating, where you see the Doctor is our self-evaluation of ourselves and where we see our function in society. And
so do you feel en masse then, if it's okay for me to ask this, because I think I brought all your pieces together, made me think that we're talking about humanity and being introduced to a better understanding of humanity and how to be a human through the science fiction of Doctor Who.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yes.
I mean, do you have a specific? I mean, it's going to be a little hard because obviously many years. But did you have something very like more specific, something that really, really, really connected to you, like Clever had with that experience, with the episode? And anyone have anything that just immediately jumps to your mind?
I think the first.
Oh, sure.
The first event.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you. The first event that I went to for Doctor Who, it was at a pub, and it was probably the first aspects of any type of fandom gathering ever that I've gone to, and in just geek culture and stuff like that. And it was my introduction to a fandom party, and it just that kind of sense of like everybody here is for the same show. Everybody's here because they love this one character, these stories that are being played out through all time and space, and it's just so amazing seeing that. And if it wasn't for that event, first of all, I wouldn't be a huge fan, as big a fan as I am of Doctor Who, but I wouldn't be doing what I do now podcast wise and talking about all these shows, movies, and all this stuff on these mediums that we have now with Nisha. And it's honestly, it changed my life a lot because of that.
Was this the one in Davie with Mark?
No, this was actually an event here in Metro West in Orlando, and it was just basically like it was one of the viewing parties.
Oh yeah, that's when we used to go with Hurricane Who back in the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually a lot of how I was reacclimated to the fandom, was to start going to the viewing parties. That's a great point. You're right. I mean, huge point of connectivity there. Anyone else?
Oh, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, Molly. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
I misunderstood Nisha's last question. I thought she wanted an example of when the doctor was questioning his
No,
kind of
I wanted either. You did not misunderstand. You are completely on point.
I'm thinking of like the fires of Pompeii and when he's like, saved humanity.
So I am talking about that. It was actually any point of connection, whether it's personal or whether it was a show. And for me, I meant it both ways. So whichever. I agree with and it's so funny because you said the fires of Pompeii. Peter Capaldi. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a perfect example. So go with the flow. Oh, you got it. You go with the flow.
But I'm sorry, I completely interrupted Molly on that one.
Oh, well, no, you could finish. Go ahead.
I was just thinking of all of these episodes in my head of the time where the Doctor had all this conflict. Like we keep thinking of the Doctor as, this being that seems to always have the answers at their fingertips. And I love the episodes where there's that conflict, because it is this alien creature that has lived for hundreds and hundreds of years that is, sad and conflicted and guilty and, has so many feelings and sadness. And I love the episodes with the conflict. Those are some of my absolute favorite episodes. And I don't know why Pompeii just popped into my head.
Well, I mean, that was an amazing episode. I think the other one, too, is in the last season with Capaldi with the ship and how the further down you were in the ship, the faster time was going. And vice versa, or slower. I'm sorry, it was going slower.
Oh, that episode was amazing.
That was amazing because that was where we really do see the almost human side of the Doctor. So for me, that episode was heart-wrenching for me, of course, because of Bill too. I'm like, no, Bill, no. But because that's where Bill becomes Cyberman. Yes. But the
Yay, Cyberman.
yeah, but the real
in the right context, okay.
Yeah, but for me, I guess real life has been connecting with all of you, and I had done some stuff with Mark of Mark Who, And it really reinvigorated my connection in real time with real people, besides just adoring the show. I think for a lot of us Whovians, of course, we love the show, we love our doctors, we love our different episodes, and we carry that with us no matter where we are. However, I think when it gets translated to real life, where we get to connect with real people, other Whovians, other nerds, other geeks, it really gives us the permission to relax and to enjoy. And I think that not everyone gets to do that with their specific fandoms. Some are more harried than others. So I think that's an aspect. And again, that plays into everything that you guys said, whether it's respect, respecting others, accepting others, listening to others. I think these are all lessons that come out of the universe of the Doctor.
Did I hear a Harry Potter pun in there?
Oh God!
I don't know. It wasn't intentional.
Do it.
Well, it's really interesting, but and not my favorite episodes at all. But when you were speaking right now, Molly, I got tuned into Capaldi episodes and the Pyramid at the End of the World and the Lie of the Land. And do you remember the point of does everyone remember those episodes?
Yes.
Yes.
So you have this alien force that touches down with the pyramids, and they're here to try and learn about who we are. But then what they want to do is kind of do what the Borgs do, right? They want to assimilate.
Yep.
And in order to do that, we have to disconnect from our faith and our belief in anything other than what they tell us. We have to en masse, in a collective way, be brainwashed into believing that they are our absolution. And while the episodes themselves can be troubling, the philosophy and pondering that perspective has always touched my head. It's touched my soul. Like, we deal with that because that's the nature of war, isn't it? I mean, warring factions, people are trying to get us, one side is trying to get us to follow who they are, and that's what it is. You don't follow who they are, and what happens? War breaks out. And I feel like that we are given the science fiction language that epitomizes what it means to constantly end on the brink of a war when our humanity is challenged. That kind of makes sense when we're stripped away of the things that make us individuals, stripped away of the things that give us our hope and our belief and our faith. And I don't know, but those two pieces seem to have done that to me. It seemed to have made me think along those lines.
Sure.
And again, they're not my favorite episodes at all.
Well, the Veritas, right? Veritas. True.
That's it. It's the Veritas. Yep. Oh man. So I have myself thinking. I'm pondering so much on it right now. All right. Did anyone else have any other I mean, it's so hard. You're talking about hundreds of episodes. I'm sorry I asked the question.
Well, yeah. I mean, so many run through my head, whether they're Baker episodes or whether they're Tennant episodes or they're Eccleston episodes. I mean, I think there's usually a recurring core smattering of aspects that are similar from Doctor to Doctor.
Yeah.
But I think that Clever really hit it on the head with the respect aspect, though.
Yeah.
That is something that is universal from Doctor to Doctor, regardless of who's playing the Doctor.
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting episodes for me is The Beast Below. I really love that episode where it's the closer they get to this planet and it's to this black hole, and that whole thing is just, it's so fascinating because of the religious aspects that I'm bringing up religion a lot in this episode for some reason.
Yeah, that's so interesting. But I mean, that's amazing. It's have that perspective. So
yeah, it's fascinating to see these type of like mythical creatures and mythical beings being brought into Doctor Who. So it's not just
Mm-hmm.
it's fantastic history, which is phenomenal, or mythology, which is interesting because you see how it's plays a part in humanity, and it's like, oh, it's this being that's this psychic being that kind of sways humanity's mind by telepathically what do you call it, telling people where he is, which that is one of the most fascinating ideas, and you're like, whoa, that just blew my mind, because that opens up the door to so many different things.
right, exactly.
It's
That is what I'm saying. It's so funny because we kind of honed in on like similar concepts, about
yeah.
how. I'm sorry, but that episode to this day, and I've probably watched it 10 times, still makes my insides churn.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But when the technician, right?
Yes.
When he turns,
Yes.
oh my God, how easily he embodies this pure absolute evil. I mean,
and then the Ood that are just basically
The Ood.
they're these perfect, very, very blessed beings that they literally hold their their brain out in their hands, and they hold their emotions and beings out in their hands and give it to the world. That's just it's such a beautiful thought of these creatures, that they're so peaceful and loving and accepting, that they literally come and accept you, not with open arms, but with their most delicate part of their body out and ready for you to hold on to. That is phenomenal. And then the fact that this being corrupts those incorruptible beings, and even the ones that are so incorruptible can be corrupted by this evil thought. This
you are waxing so prophetic right now. This is so perfect. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Oh my goodness.
No, but I just, that episode, it hits me on such a great level. And then going on that same tangent is the episode with the Minotaur in the hotel.
Oh God!
Oh, sure.
That episode is just it's about the same for me when it comes to that. I love it. It's fantastical. It's a tribute to The Shining in so many different ways. It's just beautifully done. The concepts, the underlying themes, everything is just beautiful. I loved it.
It's just such a great way to show how the Doctor treats these fantastic, I don't want to say fantastic beasts, but they really are. More Harry Potter references.
Yes.
There's just more. They're just these fantastical creatures that until they prove to the Doctor that they can't be trusted, he will trust them, or the Doctor will trust them. And it's such a beautiful thing. Like, most humans would look at this, seemingly disgusting, seemingly terrifying creature and base their opinions on it just on appearances. And the doctors will come in and be like, you are the absolute cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. You need to be, I need to talk to you. I need to know your story. I want to learn everything about you. And I'm going to trust you because you've never done anything to me. And to me, that's just an amazing attribute that we can all learn from. I just think it's so wonderful. And I think it's fantastic that the Doctor will do the complete opposite when the monster turns on the Doctor and the companions. You harm my friends. Well, now we're no longer friends. You are my absolute enemy. But until then, I'm going to trust you and you will be my friend.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to live. And I hope a lot of people watch this show not only because of how beautiful it's done, but also see these underlying concepts. And I think that's why we started Doctor Who in Review with both of us. Nisha and I, we love Doctor Who with a passion. And these were the conversations that we had before about Doctor Who. And we're like, oh my God, we have to sit and talk about this. We have to bring in other people that have the same feelings. And all these things that Molly and Clever are bringing up are fantastic and just totally on point.
Thank you.
How about so while we're on this subject, I wanted to go back in my brain and think about the episode. There are two episodes that also had a huge impact, and I don't want to just talk about the impact of it, but I think that these two episodes might have had a very strong influence in terms of the fandom themselves. Because I was going to ask, how do you feel like this generation, this language styling of the showrunners has affected the way that the fandom has connected to the Doctor, right? I mean, like we're talking about now, but because we've seen a huge burgeoning in the fandom and how openly they express their love for Doctor Who. Yeah? In terms of...
You're talking about Jodie.
No, I'm talking about all the Doctors, right? Okay. So, but I mean, over the last 5 years, it's just literally grown. I feel like it's fivefold from when we first started, really doing more conventions, etc. But I was going to talk to you about a couple episodes, and tell me, if I'm wrong. But there was a show, an episode called "The Rebel Flesh," Almost People.
Okay.
And the moral compass that the Doctor has to addresses in this episode, because if you remember in that episode, that is they land on this planet that's kind of falling apart, and they're trying to get the scientists off of it, but the scientists have used what they call flesh to get the surplus assistance that they need. Do you remember that episode?
Yep.
Yes.
And in this episode, when the flesh gets any of your genetic material, it can recreate itself. And in the episode, we realized that where they thought that the flesh had died, when it was no longer useful, it actually maintained a soul and a conscience.
Yes.
It makes me cringe. It hurts me so much inside when I think about this episode. And the fact that they touched on something so important. So bringing an episode to us like that makes us look at our moral and ethical principles and our moral absolutism. What do you feel? What do you feel that's done for the fandom or for science fiction in general? Because that's it's very nuanced for Doctor Who to keep bringing us these new ways at looking at ourselves. So, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think it helps to keep pushing the envelope. I hate to use a cliche of pushing the envelope, but I really think it does. I think it, like I had mentioned earlier in this episode, the ability to push through, the ability to go beyond just the ordinary. We have lots of science fiction shows, whether it's Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever, and they push their own envelopes. But I think what makes Doctor Who unique is it takes risks. It has deep meanings, even though some people might only see the surface level of them. I think the fans probably dig in deeper. But there's very few shows out there that push the envelope like this. And so I think it gives inspiration to those in the scientific field. I know it inspires you and yours. I don't know about you, Louis, but I'm sure it does in yours as well. I mean, I think it helps blossom curiosity and innovation.
It really does. It really does, 100%. And it's funny that the more I talk about Doctor Who, and I have a couple of like figurines and stuff like that at my desk, and it's so fascinating. For those of you that don't know, I'm a pharmacy technician, so I work in a specialty pharmacy corporation type of thing, and I get so many people that stop by my desk and they're like, "Oh my God, you're a Doctor Who fan," and we just start going off about all these different episodes, and it's a point of connection that's very inspirational, and how like all these people are impacted by this one show. And I think that is fascinating because they start bringing up scientific issues, and where we see how pharmaceuticals like the adipose episode and all these episodes that are so cool are brought into the show, and it's just fascinating how all these different sciences are brought in.
Oh yeah, science nerd right here. Hello. I make no aplomb about that. Everyone knows that. Did you want to tap in on that one, Cover? Or
I think it's interesting because I feel like with most any good science fiction, any of these stories you can look at 5 years from now and they're not going to really be all that far-fetched. And that's kind of interesting and scary at the same time. You know what I mean? I mean, I think there are science fiction stories that we probably read as kids that are probably not that far from reality or our reality now.
Yep.
And I think some of these stories that maybe make us wonder or make us cringe are doing that because, you know, they're not that far away from the truth.
True.
Ooh. Okay, so we keep having these pregnant pauses in this episode, and I'm realizing it's because we're all thinking.
Yeah.
We're saying such profound things that we're all caught up with the thinking. And that doesn't usually happen when we do an episode, am I right? We're usually
I'm also trying not to interrupt anyone, and there's also there's a little bit of static on my end, but I know it's because of my Bluetooth, and I'm like, I just want to let everyone finish, make sure we don't all interrupt. But yeah, I also do think we're deep thinkers.
No, I'm just giving you guys all of you credence for being deep thinkers. You got it.
Yes.
But that's again back to the relevance of the content. I'm going to look at the psyche here. I was asking, does it change the way we live our life? I asked that question of you because I asked it of myself. Did this show, did the 30-something years of this show change the way I live my life? And everyone knows the answer is yes.
Yeah, for me too. Absolutely. 100%. Yes.
On the wall of my office in the clinic, I have four quotes. I live by those quotes. I look at them every day to remind myself of who I need to be and the person that I need to be with my patients, with my staff, with myself. So do you have that type of have you had that type of experience? Or and it doesn't have to
absolutely
be. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. In mostly I have it more not necessarily from I guess it is somewhat scientific, but it's also a philosophical point of view. I'm extremely introspective and always thinking about things all the time. And so for me, it's a lot of deep thought, actually. And for what I do for a living, I organize information, much like the TARDIS. So I kind of joke that sometimes I'm a human TARDIS, but because I like to explore and travel and organize information. So, you know, absolutely. The influence that the show has had on me goes very deep, without like taking another 2 hours to go into it. But yes, absolutely, very deeply.
I think a lot of it on my part has been because of the impact of social changes that have occurred in our society, and a lot of it has come from that. Mostly working honestly with Diversely Geek, and it kind of changes the paradigm working with an organization as Diversely Geek is, and having this fandom as a backdrop in the organization. And honestly, just this kind of interesting acceptance of everybody and anybody is fascinating. And this is, I mean, it's one of the main points in Doctor Who, honestly, and I think that's why I connect with it and I see such an impact of it.
Has it changed our moral compass?
For some of us, sure.
Yeah, big time.
I wouldn't say everybody, but I would say for some of us, sure.
Okay. I understand why you're saying that, because the fan, and maybe Clever can weigh in on this. It's a vast fandom, right? It's a global, universal, principled fandom, but not everyone's always, you know, on the same page.
Right.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so true. So very, very true.
I was trying to be very, very, very. What is the word? I was just trying to say it nicely.
Diplomatic.
I was being diplomatic. That's the word.
That's a
You guys
good
know
word.
me in this show. I do everything I can to say it as nicely as I can. So, and this is a very heavy-weighted question as we move into towards the last of this particular episode. And I don't think we should answer everything right now, because remember, this is a series. What we're doing today is we're just bringing up the subjects to really have us think more deeply about them. And then as we move along in this series, to really, I say, dig in a lot harder and be more open and honest about them. So when I talk about the moral compass, the Doctor's moral compass has been broken on many, many, many occasions. Well-intentioned doctor, well-meaning doctor does not mean that the code is always followed, right?
Yep.
Correct.
So talk to me a little bit about how you juxtapose that doctor, the one who doesn't get it right, to the one who does get it right. That's a hard question. I know, I'm sorry.
It is, but it's not an impossible answer, because we have a human playing an alien, but that alien has been around humans and other creatures for so long, perhaps we've rubbed off on them a little bit.
I think a lot of it is the internal, what do you call it? Kind of, again, it goes back to that internal struggle that we have, that we as humans are putting this persona of the Doctor together, and it works. The Doctor works as our internal compass, our internal struggles, our internal discrepancies that we have. The Doctor is the personification of what humanity is and struggles with on a daily basis. And I think,
what humanity could be, could be, right?
Yes, and the way, but the thing is the Doctor's also flawed like us.
There you go. Yeah,
that's the important thing. That's the important thing, and that's what makes him, makes the Doctor connectable. Is the connectivity is because the Doctor's flawed. The Doctor lies. The Doctor does all these things that are very humanistic traits, but also, and the reason is so it connects with us. And those are the internal struggles that we struggle with on a daily basis. Whether we should do that little white lie to make somebody feel better, or should we lie about this to get this? Should we lie to help somebody reach their goal, which the Doctor does a lot of.
Oh, yeah, but the Doctor always, and remember, the Doctor carries tremendous guilt.
Yes.
I mean, he killed his whole planet.
Yes. I mean,
that's pretty huge. That's pretty huge.
I mean, when the Doctor takes the TARDIS in the first place, and we're at the very beginning, and I'm sorry, Clever. I feel like we're keeping you from talking.
Don't worry about it.
I think like we're in the entire show starts with an ethical conundrum, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
And we don't realize that, but we get treated to it pretty immediately. And to his aggressiveness and the Doctor in a flawed character, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's the first the Doctor that we get is completely flawed, and in that first,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, so somehow or the other, we managed to connect to that Doctor. What does that say about us?
Yeah.
It says that you're
that we're human.
Yeah. You were spot on with that point, I think. Any more weigh in, my dears? I know big questions. So have we personally, us, you, me, the four of us here, have we changed our moral compass because of the doctor's influence? I know, big question.
I'd like to think so. I like to walk the walk and talk or talk the talk and walk the walk, or however that goes. But yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's all about integrity and loyalty and honesty and transparency. And these are values I hold personally very dear to me. And whether it's influenced by the Dr. Holy or not, I would say there's probably a good percentage chance that a good hunk of it is, just because of what young people are influenced with when they're younger, of course. So for me, I can answer yes. I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, yes. I think
How about
so.
you, Clever?
Probably not.
I'd have to agree with you. I think that it's a fantastic character, and it kind of lets us identify with the character, but I wouldn't say it changed my moral compass.
I think it's interesting that people look at this character and think that we're drawn to the Doctor, but I think it's the other way around. I think the Doctor's drawn to people. I think this character is very flawed and very guilt-ridden and is running and hiding from their past. And I don't think, I mean, as much as I love this show and my life has completely changed because of it, I don't think I would use a character like that as a role model per se. I think there are hundreds of things that I could use my day-to-day activities to draw from, but to change my moral compass, I don't know. I'm going to have to maybe go with no on that one. I mean,
And what I love is that all of you literally tapped into one particular aspect of that question. So, have we changed our moral compass because of the Doctor's influence? I think that's perfect, actually. I love that there was the differences in the thought, because they're both correct.
Of course.
They have to be correct because they're us, right? Couldn't we change our moral compass because we're seeing that level of flaw, that level of discombobulation, that level of discontent, and the way that the Doctor literally can implode, and we have to look at and pass judgment, because for everything good about the Doctor can 100% get it wrong. And
oh, sure.
So we're taught. It's not that we're necessarily modeling ourselves after that. It's learning a lesson.
Yes.
Not to do. What do you think about that point?
I think you're
yes,
right.
so
it's such a complex character.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So when I say that I feel like it has been, I'd like to expand on that just a little bit. Again, I'm a very introspective person, always interested in self-growth and self-learning and self-awareness. So perhaps I don't necessarily emulate some of the messiness, because I had a lot of mess in my life. Okay, yes. I had a lot of mess in my life. I'm 51 years old. I've had a lot of mess and a lot of different experiences. But at the same time, you learn from them, right?
Yes.
And the Doctor is not shy about learning and owning it. And I think that aspect of it, owning ourselves, being self-aware. The Doctor's not perfect. None of us are perfect. But I think the question of a moral compass is an interesting one, because for me, I don't necessarily define moral as like religiously moral, right? I define moral as in being a good person, being good to others. And that's my definition of moral. So if that helps to put it in perspective a little bit, I guess.
That's perfect. It's exact. It was a purposefully written ambiguous question, because the only way to answer that would be based on how we even how we even understand the question. You know what I mean? Like, what does it mean to us? And I feel like a lot of times that's what the writing for this show is about. It's about questioning our own, how our own sensibilities, our own action abilities. Would we do the same? Do we believe that the doctor did the right thing? Do we believe that everyone did the right thing or the wrong thing? Does that make, does that kind of...
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I have to agree with you on that. I wouldn't say that it changed my moral compass, but the conversations that sparked out of being a fan of Doctor Who in this type of setting with three amazing people that love this fandom, this is where I think our moral compass could change and we learn drastically from are these conversations outside of the show, where we give the retrospective of that doctor, the season, the show, the episode, whatever the case is. And I think that's where we're able to see that kind of change, that paradigm change in ourselves.
I think it's so interesting that you say that, but no, go ahead. I don't want to. Go ahead. Somebody.
No, that was it.
No, I was going to say I love that word, paradigm shift. I love that word, or phrase, because it's very powerful. Again, that taps into the self-awareness. I think it was a little bit lacking in this latest season. I love Jodie, but it was just that self-awareness part of it. And granted, the doctor's still getting used to being this doctor, but perhaps it will show more in the subsequent episodes. Capaldi really showed this, I felt.
God, yes.
And to the point where I was like, after I'd watched an episode, I'm like, oh, because it was just like, ooh, it just got me, and it was just, oh my goodness. I was like, wow, that was a lot of work watching that episode. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I read an article recently with David Tennant where he was looking at his life and how he became an actor. And at like 4 years of age, he was watching Doctor Who and told his parents, I want to be an actor. I want to be the doctor. And that is what sparked his interest in acting. And David continued to be a Doctor Who fan, not with the goal of becoming the doctor, but that's what happened. And when you read this particular episode, which is a lot of what sparked our conversation today, just so you understand, 2 articles that I read from on Capaldi and David Tennant, and they talked about this influence and the changeability of our understanding of ourselves by looking at the doctor, by being exactly what you said, retrospective and introspective when it comes to the doctor's example. And I was blown away with to learn that about David. That was like, okay, that makes sense to me, So it's just crazy. 2 huge actors whose lives were influenced by this fandom, who then later become the doctor. Isn't that
right?
Crazy?
I think it's super cool. When and I think you saw him too, Nisha, when Capaldi was here at SuperCon and he was talking about it. I was just so enraptured the whole time, just listening, because he's such an amazing, nice person in real life.
Is he?
And just amazing. And I loved listening to his stories because the influence of the doctor on his life was huge. I don't know if it changed his moral compass, but it sure sounded like it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I agree with you. The Peter Capaldi, when you see him live in person, I think of him as a mixture, like his actual persona, a mixture of The Thick of It and Doctor Who. And I want to see him do that. And he did that in SuperCon, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yes, he did. That was ridiculous. That was so ridiculous.
I got him to curse
Incidentally,
at me, which was fantastic.
oh yeah, you did. You're crazy. That was just crazy. But I was thinking about that, and we all know our lovely one of our very good friends who was dealing with a medical issue, a life-threatening medical issue, and he asked Capaldi a question at that very same panel, and he asked for his advice as he was about to make a decision that was a life and death decision, and Capaldi so graciously read one of his soliloquies from Listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the influence and the impact, but not just that, this pure exchange that happened bolstered our friend and gave him hope and belief and strength to be able to go, to face this thing. And
wow.
It was so honest and heartfelt.
It was.
And he was for real. Like, he wasn't just reading off a standard line that actors read off. He was being himself.
No. I was super verklempt when it was over, just saying. I just cried.
I know. Isn't it funny how we were all in the same room together? Ooh.
I know what it is.
Isn't that crazy? Sorry,
Clever.
It is.
Oh, no. I one of these days I will tell you when we're not on the podcast, because it will take a while, when I will tell you my one funny Capaldi story.
Oh, I can't wait. I did want to ask you, Clever, if you're comfortable and you're I wanted to just, if you don't mind, just to share a little bit of your journey towards becoming Clever. And I know you gave a little bit of it earlier, but I wanted, because you shared with me why you connected so strongly to this character and this particular part of the Doctor. Do you mind sharing that? I
don't even remember what I ended up telling you.
I have it in writing. Ooh.
I don't remember. This is so funny. I remember sitting down with my partner, and like I said, I've always been a Neil Gaiman fan. I mean, Neil's a god. Let's just be honest. Can we just say that? Neil's a god. Come on. Let's just be real for a moment. And I've always loved. It's so weird. Like I've got this weird thing for like circuses and amusement parks and things like that. Like I love The Night Circus. It's one of my favorite books. And when we sat down to watch Nightmare in Silver, there were so many little things about the episode that I just lost my mind. Like jumping up in the bed, lost my mind. Like my poor partner's like, you're going to hit your head on the ceiling. Like you need to calm yourself. Like, I think I actually scared every single one of my cats. I don't actually remember what my poor partner was doing. I think I hit him with a pillow. I remember screaming. I'm talking like actual freak out. Like, what do you remember?
You were telling me the story of how you connected so much.
I really did. But I don't remember why. Like, so many people will ask me this. They will ask me the same thing. Like, you connected so much with this character, but I don't remember why. But I did, and I started cosplaying him, and I loved it so much. And I started going to cons, and I just got so much hate for it, which I'm assuming is what you're trying to get out of me.
Kind of, a little bit.
Like, can you just tell the freaking story? I started getting so much hate for this cosplay, and it wasn't for the cosplay itself. I should reiterate that. Everyone liked the costume, but they didn't like my choice of costume. They thought it was a stupid character, and they thought it was a stupid episode. They're like, oh my god, you'd be a real cosplayer if you picked a different costume. People were picking me.
Oh my god.
They were picking on me because of my gender. I hadn't come out yet as non-binary and trans. People were sending me hate mail. I was starting to get threats. I actually got rape threats. I actually got threats that...
Oh my god.
I got threats that people were going to spit on me at cons. When people did find out that I was trans, they told me that, you people don't belong on God's earth. That you people don't belong on this planet. I got death threats. I got.
Oh my God.
I almost quit. Like I didn't leave my room for 3 days. 3 days.
Clever. That's horrible.
It was over a costume. I'm like, how do you people justify this? It's a friggin' cosplay. Like, people were so adamant that this was like the most horrible thing that they had ever seen, and these were other Whovians, which was the most disturbing thing. Like, I don't understand why people would think that that was okay to do that to another Whovian. That really bothered me.
It's not. It's really not.
It's not okay to do that to anyone.
I don't want you to feel. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable about sharing this. I really want you to feel comfortable. Only
no, it doesn't bother me. Not anymore.
As you know, it's more about people understanding that there's two sides to what we consider to be morality, because we raise. So this is just such a heart-wrenching.
I'm sorry that you went through that.
Yeah, wow.
It's horrible.
That's beyond horrible. I'm so sorry.
The moral of the story, I guess, is I ended up finding a cosplay group. They're no longer, unfortunately, but there was a cosplay is not consent group way back when, like 2014. This was back in 2014. This is how long I've been doing this character. They were called iCosplay, and they were based out of the UK. I found them because I wrote a blog about this, and they found me. And through them, I found like people that had experienced similar things. So it was bad that it happened, but it was good to find this wonderful support group, and it was good to find that, other people basically could put their foot down and say, look, this crap's not okay. Like, you can't do that to people. And it was nice to find, true friends, and it was nice to find out that even though this crap was happening, it was still a small percentage of the fandom. So even though all of this happened,
I would hope so.
It was nice that, even though that was 5%, the 95% of the fandom came forward and was like, you can't do that to people. Like, that's not okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, it hasn't really petered off as much as I would have hoped. I mean, I still get a lot of hate. I still get a lot of like, I don't know.
Seriously?
I will still get the random hate mail every now and then. Like, I don't understand why you still do that character. I mean, I haven't gotten threats in a little while, luckily, but I mean, the trans hate's always there. It's tough being a trans. That's always tough.
So,
that's always
just so sad. It was so poignant. I mean, when the conversation we had was in writing, and I think that it was one of the most moving conversations I have had with someone, because I don't see the world through those kind of glasses, and neither does anyone else on the show today. No. It's impossible. And I'm listening to Molly, and Molly is going, this is impossible because this is not how we see the world. How can you see the world that way? Why do we do these things?
I had to mute myself because I was like, I started screaming at the microphone.
I figured. And there is toxicity everywhere. So
of course.
So these toxicities definitely at some point in life are going to discuss on here, because we have to be honest. We can't. This is not everything's a bed of roses, right?
No, of course not. But
it's not a bed of roses. But on the flip side, people have to understand that even though bad stuff's going to happen, there's still
a safe space out there. Yeah,
there are still safe spaces out there, and if you really love something, you have to keep at it. If you physically can, and you emotionally can, and for me, it was just, I made that decision that I enjoy being this character.
I'm so glad you did. Because that courage.
I'm applauding you.
Stand up. Yes, applauding. Yay.
Same.
that courage to stand up is so important, and that's part of this community too. And again, tying into your respect comment, I have many dear friends who are trans, and the transphobia that is out there is horrific, and it makes me very sad. I get very sad about it.
Unjustified.
So I think that will end up being again, I keep coming up, another topic. I think that's something that we really should delve into as we move along. And one of our other shows, Molly, because we're trying to bring a positive language to the world, right? And we're trying, we use our passion for our fandom to show people that there's a way to be able to find unity in our diversity. And if we could just understand that there's unity in our diversities, and then we would learn to accept everyone and love everyone for who they are, because gosh, we want to be loved for who we are, right?
Of course.
So then why wouldn't everyone else be allotted the same thing? So I feel that, like for instance, I met Clever, and I feel like I met family. I met you, and I feel like I've met family, and it's the truth. And that is the social and the heart-to-heart influence of this fandom, is that is possible to achieve. There's something good on the other side of it. I feel like I should do Sam's speech to Frodo at this point. It would be
that was a darn good speech. That was a darn good speech.
One at this time. So thank you so much for sharing that, and I know that there's so much more to it. Clever. And when we do
so much for having me. I said, thank you so much for having me.
Gosh, yeah. So when I do my episode of My Geek Universe with you, I will definitely, that's our opportunity to explore even the name change and all the pieces of the puzzle that go with that, which I definitely want, because I know that you're an amazing person. You're willing to share that journey so you can help others to understand how to stand strong in the same way. And that's why I wanted to do these episodes with this particular focus, so people would be able to find those things that connect them as fans versus the things that disconnect them. So let's find our similarities and not our differences, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And so this was my hope with this series of episodes, is that we'd be able to tap into the cultural and social influence of Doctor Who and how it has impacted us, and in ways that we probably never could have imagined it ever could have. So, okay, so that was a great episode. Oh my God, so much things to think about. You guys, you saw me typing everything in here. Like, how many notes did I write as we went along? So.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Oh my God! I'm going to end with a quote, which I think we should lead into with our next episode. So it is. So the Doctor says in season 6 of episode 6, I am and always will be the optimist, the hope of far-flung hopes, the hoper of far-flung hopes, the dreamer of improbable dreams. That, for me, beautiful. I think sums up a lot of why I am passionately dedicated to this fandom, because of that philosophy, and I actually believe that it's real. So,
yeah. Oh, it is real. It can be. It is real. It's real to us, anyway.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
Even in the face of the adversity, as Clever has, shared with us, to always be the optimist, to be a hoper of far-flung hopes, and to be a dreamer of improbable dreams. And
absolutely.
I can't think of a better way to close out this episode than leaving it at that. Just mic drop there. Boom.
Boom. You got it. All right, Lewis, you want to close us out for the day?
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode. Molly, like always, joining us, and our first time guest, Clever, which was phenomenal.
Yay.
Thank you for sharing your story and sharing all the stuff that we brought up in this episode. Nisha, thank you for running the show today. And we'll see you guys for another episode of Doctor Who in Review next week, every Monday, like always.